Here's the good news and the bad news. We make a living as emergency medicine providers, whether it's in the field or in the hospital or in other settings, of saving lives and realizing that cardiac arrest and heart disease are big killers. But it's also a big killer among firefighters and professional providers. And in fact, on-duty deaths in firefighting personnel are most commonly due to cardiac disease. And 45% of the deaths on duty among firefighters is due to sudden cardiac death, cardiac arrest.
Have you ever had a heart attack before or any kind of cardiac history? No?
No.
Too far down. Okay. That's good.
It won't happen to me or anyone on my crew. That's what we all assume, right? In a moment, you're going to meet 3 local first responders who are fortunate to be alive. All 3 have a similar story. They waited too long before getting the help they urgently needed. Picture yourself in this situation. You're coming out of a room and contents fire after your first bottle, or you're giving rapid, life-saving treatment to a critical patient in the back of a medic unit. You notice you're a little more fatigued than normal. You have a pressure sensation in your chest. What would you do? Our message is simple. When in doubt, get checked out.
Good. Let it out nice and easy.
30 to 40% of people suffering a heart attack never experience classic cardiac chest pain. Atypical symptoms include dyspnea, epigastric discomfort, general weakness, fatigue, cold sweats, dizziness, syncopal episodes, or pain in the head, face, upper throat, or jaw. Pain can also be felt in the left arm or shoulder, stomach, or the back. When first responders experience these types of atypical cardiac symptoms for themselves, they tend to downplay them as minor medical issues.
I was under a lot of stress because I was putting in an in-ground pool in my backyard, working with a contractor. The job wasn't getting completed fast enough, so I was helping him. And it was important to my wife because we wanted the pool in place before my daughter's high school graduation. One morning, I woke up during the project, and both of my wrists hurt really bad. And then the pain in my hands started to radiate up both arms into my chest. So I sat in my office with this chest pain, which I couldn't figure out. And I thought, well, I'm 42, the thought of it being my heart never even crossed my mind. At the time, I was doing off-shift ALS responses for Eastside Fire and Rescue. And I had my med kit sitting in the kitchen. And I thought, well, gosh, maybe I should try some nitro. But I was afraid to use the nitro because patients always talk about getting a headache or passing out. I didn't want that to happen to me because I had all this work to do. So I decided to go over and I'd try a shot of nitro. So I took a nitro spray and I sat there for a few minutes and the pain went away completely. And I thought, wow, I feel great. So I was planning on doing all this yard work. Probably 15 minutes later, my wrists started hurting again, both of them, and the pain came up into my chest. And I thought I was going to die. In fact, I told my wife, I sort of leaned over the island countertop and to my wife and I said, I think I'm going to die. I called 911 and the dispatchers at Norcom knew who I was. And they asked me if I had heart disease. And I told them sort of jokingly that by the end of the day, I'm sure I will have a history of heart disease. I ended up going to the Overlake Hospital. In the emergency room, they did an electrocardiogram. They didn't really see much on there. Cardiologist came in and said, well, you really don't have any risk factors. We could watch you overnight and see how things go, or we could cath you and see if there's possibly an issue. And I kind of jokingly said, well, I always want to know what my coronaries look like. And they found a blockage in my right coronary artery. Fortunately, I had developed some collateral circulation over a number of years, so which if I hadn't, I probably would have lost the whole right side of my heart. Who would think that if both of their wrists hurt and they told you that they had been hauling around large wheelbarrows with rocks for the last 2 weeks, who would think that it was ischemic? heart pain.
As a first responder, you are routinely subjected to high-stress situations that place a significant load on your cardiovascular system. This alone can trigger a cardiac event.
Particularly for firefighters, when you are on duty, you are in a high-stress situation. You're in a fight or flight type of situation. Your adrenaline's going. You're wearing heavy gear, probably 30, 40, 50 pounds in the process of being on the job. And that's like running on a treadmill. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're stressing the heart and the body in a great way. And the heart's demanding oxygen in response to that. And when the heart demands something and doesn't get it, it cries. And you have to pay attention to the symptoms that it creates when the heart's crying.
"55-year-old veteran firefighter Larry Briggs suffered a heart attack while working a garage fire. His story is another example of how atypical cardiac symptoms are not taken seriously and life-saving treatment is delayed.
The call came in as a smoke investigation, so it was kind of low-key call to start with. I read the computer before we left the ramp, and it got upgraded to a residential fire. So I said, stop, let's go ahead and get bunkered up. We showed up, it ended up being a detached garage, looked like a two-story garage, because they had built a shed down below it. So we ended up pulling a 2.5 because the amount of fire coming out, proximity to the house. I started experiencing some back pain. It was just some sharp stabbing back pain between my shoulder blades. And I didn't think much of it, just the old man having some aches and pains and playing with heavy hose. So I didn't really present with typical chest pain and nausea or anything like that. Did feel a little fatigued. By the end of the event, I was feeling pretty crappy. So we got back to the station. I called Medic 4 and said, come on over and take a look at me. And they said I was having the big one, so.
Well, we're closing the store, and I'm almost 9 o'clock, and I'm getting this phone call, and it's the nurse from Valley, and she says, we have your husband here, and we're wheeling him down to the OR. I'll let you talk to him. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then he goes, hi, I've had a heart attack, and I'm here at Valley, but don't worry, right. So I was stunned by what he said because I wasn't anticipating him having a heart attack at all. And I started to get some questions. Well, what happened? What's this? What's that? And he's going, hey, I gotta go. They're trying to take me into OR. Life would have changed as I knew it if he had passed. It would have turned our world upside down. The boys wouldn't have had their father. I wouldn't have my husband. So yeah, life, that is tough to answer, but life would just be completely different than what it is now.
Captain Rick Cox shares a story that has become all too common. Due to the subtle nature of his symptoms, Rick chose to wait until the following day to seek medical attention and drove himself to the hospital ER.
So we had a second alarm fire with Renton Fire. It was just after midnight as we go down, second ladder truck coming down to Renton to deal with the small strip mall that's burning. As I passported in, I remember the incident commander saying, hey, we've got a commercial building, it's after hours, there's no life hazards, I don't want anyone to get hurt. So as we were working around the building, I was forcing some doors when I felt a flutter in my chest. And I thought about it and it went away, and I'm like, okay, not too big a deal, and continued working. Later that morning I had a meeting with Chief Weatherall, and went into the meeting. And I felt tired, but I'd been up all night at a second alarm fire, so it didn't really come across that anything was wrong. I was going to go, after the meeting, I was going to go help some people do some landscaping, some friends of ours. And I'm like, well, something's just not quite right. I can't put my finger on it. I keep trying to self-diagnose. As I look back, it's probably some denial, but it wasn't the classic heart attack symptoms that I was having. So I go down, drive myself to the emergency room. I had my echocardiogram to take a look, and the doctor came out and goes, "Have you ever had a heart attack before?" And I'm like, "No." And he goes, "Well, I think you're having one now." And then as he says that I'm having the heart attack, and I'm like, I need to call my wife to let her know I'm going to be in the hospital for a little bit. And it was hard to tell her that there's something wrong with my heart. I'm at the hospital, and they're going to do something. So that's how she found out. Was a phone call out of the blue from me.
You take pride in the work you do. You're courageous and duty-bound. The last thing you want to do is let down your team. This is an honorable character quality you have. However, it should not prevent you from listening to your body and getting the help you need when you need it.
And the scary thing for me is to watch all the people that we work with who probably think they're in great physical condition, and many of them are, but they still can have underlying heart disease and not know it. So my message to everybody would be, see a doctor on a regular basis, think about it, have an annual checkup, just be cognizant of your body. If you feel something that's unusual, do something about it, tell somebody about it. If you're on the fire ground and you feel short of breath or you're having some sort of discomfort that doesn't feel right, tell somebody about it. Don't be embarrassed by complaining about something. You know, it's not a sign of weakness. It's, you know, when I'm on the fire ground with firefighters and I look at them, sometimes I can tell if they're uncomfortable or not feeling very well. You can tell by the look on their face, and the firefighters will still say, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm ready to go back in." That's because we all want to be tough, you know, that's what we're supposed to do. And you just have to pay attention to your body. If something doesn't feel right, you got to do something about it.
Be honest with yourself. If you have symptoms, bring those to the attention of someone who can help you deal with them and uncover problems that could in the end hurt you if they're not disclosed.
3 veteran first responders, 3 similar situations. Cardiac symptoms were not recognized quickly and proper treatment was delayed. Fortunately, the outcomes were good and they all survived. Unfortunately, many first responders aren't so lucky. These stories should serve as a powerful reminder that you don't get a free pass just because you're a first responder. You're just as vulnerable as the public you serve. It can happen to you. It can happen to someone on your crew. If you're experiencing cardiac symptoms of any kind, get evaluated immediately.
And it's not just all about you. You have a family, you have children, you have your co-workers who depend on you in various different ways. So you have a responsibility to them. If you choose to ignore any symptoms that you might have, it's going to impact more than just you. It's going to impact your family, your children, your co-workers. So you need to think about that as well.
Again, our message is simple. When in doubt, get checked out. Your life may depend on it.
When in doubt, get checked out. 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 When in doubt, get checked out.
For more information about this video or other training topics, please contact us at South King County Fire Training Consortium. Phone number 253-856-4330 or email us at skcftc1@kentfirerfa.org.